Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I'm doing a type of video that I don't think I've done ever since I started posting videos on BookTube, which is very simply what I've been reading in the last month, or in this case in the last couple of months from the beginning of 2022. We are today on the 5th of March and I've had really great reads in the last couple of months. Even though I don't read a lot, I'm not one of those booktubers who read 700 books per month. And so let me very briefly kind of run you through the titles and share some comments. The first one was a buddy read with Jordan Parsons, and that's called Ka. Kadar Oakley in the Ruin of Immer. And if you haven't seen it, please take the opportunity to watch the interview that Jordan and I had the privilege to record together with the author of Ka, who is John Crowley. An incredibly unique book that I find very difficult to categorize. You can say that it's a fantasy book, but even if I don't read a lot of fantasy, I loved it because of its layered complexity, and I recommend it to absolutely anybody. John Crowley, Ka. The second one was also a buddy read, and it was this one, LBJ, the mastermind of the JFK assassination. It's a very detailed history book, and it's really a biography of LBJ that digs very deep into his life. I've also done a pretty long video together with my buddy reader, who is very literary, Carrie at her channel. So if you look under the community tab of my channel, you will find this video where we commented at length about this book, which is a really good one and a serious look at the life of Lyndon Johnson. Then I read an Italian book that's called Maria by Lalla Romano. This was a very lyrical, kind of delightful read. Lalla Romano was born in Cuneo in 1906, and she died in Milan in 2001. And she wrote many books. This one in particular is a fictional recounting, but it's intertwined with her own autobiography of a family in the 30s and 40s in Italy, of course, in the northwest of Italy, where she lived. And the main character of this book is Maria, who was her maid. She was basically her maid in her house. And the differences between the life of the author, who was born of a wealthy family, and the life of Maria, who comes from a very rural reality and rural village, is really what provides the tension in this novel. Very different between, let's call it the bourgeoisie of Italy in those years, the third and fourth decade of the 20th century, and the people who were still living following ancestral farm-related rhythms and lives. Very, very interesting. I'm gonna check if it's translated in English and let you know in the description. Then I was very happy to go back to, let's say, one of my old flames, who is Michael Connelly. I haven't read a Michael Connelly book in a long time, but I heard through the grapevine that this latest novel, The Dark Hours, was not only based in Los Angeles, where I live, so particularly interesting to me, but also very, very good. And I can confirm that. I found it as tense and tight and really gripping as his very first works, like, for example, The Poet or The Concrete Blonde. They were his original works from the 90s, I believe, or even earlier, that were very good. I think all of his books are actually really good. I haven't read, out of the maybe 14, 15 novels by Michael Connelly that I read, I haven't read a bad one. But at some point, maybe a few years ago, I remember reading one where the procedural element of the novel was a little too heavy, so heavy in my taste and opinion that it almost felt like doing work as a reader. You were almost doing a simulation of police work. and that's too realistic. But the balance between procedure and narration and tension here is absolutely perfect, and I really recommend it. Very quick, very gripping read, and it also tells you a lot about the LAPD, the Los Angeles Police Department, and how COVID has impacted it a lot, but more importantly, how the defund the police kind of movement impacted it in a way that has been less direct than people would think. But if there's somebody who knows the LAPD inside and out, it's Michael Connolly. So I trust his voice. Then I read a beautiful book of poetry in Italian, but this is easily found in English as well, by Charles Péguy. It's called The Mystery of the Saint Innocents. And he was a Christian writer. He was born in 1873 and died in 1914. And he converted to Catholicism in 1907. However, his poems are really not only for Christians or only for Catholics. They do have a universality. I used them for a couple of my Dante videos as well, and I love them. They are really, really delightful. I would recommend them to absolutely anybody. Then I read Night by Elie Wiesel. This is a classic of the literature that's being produced around the Holocaust, and I'd never read it before. It's only slim 109 pages, but boy, it packs a punch. It's one of those books that reading it is an experience in itself. It's something that you will never forget. You make an experience even simply reading the words, because it's so intense and so important for the memory of the victims. So I cannot say that I enjoyed it, because that's not probably the right verb to use for this type of book, but its intensity and as a historic document is fundamental. It's very, very important. For these reasons, I would recommend it. It's also infused with the author's religious and non-religious commentary, because he was a very religious person before going to Auschwitz, and during his stay there he gradually lost. He talks about a hole of emptiness that formed inside himself, so that is very interesting to follow. Another unique feature about this experience is that it's very much about father and son. They were always together, supporting each other during all the troubles and the experiences and that happened to them. And that is the only one that I've read like this, of father and son living together through this type of tragedy. So that made it probably even more intense to me. Another Italian book that I read is this one. It's called Volevo solo nuotare by Luca Farinotti. And this actually was a winner of the Bancarella Sport Prize a couple of years ago. It's a book about Rachele Bruni, who won the silver medal at the Olympic Games. And she is a swimmer, but she is specialized in nuoto di fondo. This is, in English, is called open water swimming, which is a sport discipline that I never heard before. And so it opened up a completely new world to me, especially because nowadays you find out about something, you can go on YouTube and go down the rabbit hole. I actually saw some of these open water swimming competitions, and oh boy, your arms will hurt just simply looking at these videos, because they go out in the sea and swim for sometimes more than 2 hours constantly. And so these are really super men and super women. In her case, she's a superwoman, and the book is fantastic in in making us understand what drives her inside. Of course, it's a sport where physical strength and your own physical skills matter a lot, but more than anything else, it's what is in your brain, in your heart, and the author Luca Farinotti is really great at making that part, that interior part, shine. So this book is probably not translated in English, but I will leave a couple of links to Rachele's videos down below in the description, so you know what I'm talking about when I mention open water swimming, which I didn't know before reading this book. Finally, I finished this book about the Middle Ages, but in particular about Dante. The title is Dissent and Philosophy in the Middle Ages, Dante and His Precursors. It's a book that offers scholars of Dante's Divine Comedy an integral understanding of the political, philosophical, and religious context of the medieval masterwork. There are a lot of very good essays titled Dante and Christianity, or The Imperialism of the Comedy, or Dante and Philosophical Allegory, and or Political Philosophy in the Christian World for Dante. So if you are interested in the Divine Comedy and just going deeper into your studies of the Divine Comedy, this is a fantastic text, written and published in 2002. So it's 20 years old, 2002. Another essay here is Islam and the Rediscovery of Political Philosophy. Very, very interesting. I'm also in these days, I haven't finished it, but this is the only buddy read that I have going at this point, with Christy of Dostoevsky in Space, Christy Lewis, and we are really enjoying this history book that's called Congo, the epic history of a people. I think we're almost finished, and we're gonna try to maybe create or post a video about it, because it's such a multifaceted, complex, and important history of a part of the world that is very often ignored, simply ignored. So this is another example of how a book can make you discover, open your eyes on a reality that you have never seen before, you have never even known the basics of, and you at least can learn something about it just from reading a really good book about it. So I certainly recommend it. Thank you for listening to this 5-minute review, and thanks for watching. Bye.